Everyone thought it was just another one of her weekend hobbies. A pile of scrap wood, leftover paint, and a bunch of thrifted items didn't look like much to them. Her neighbors rolled their eyes. Her friends chuckled. Even her own family gently asked if she really wanted to spend so much time on just another DIY thing. But she saw something different. To her, it wasn't junk, it was possibility. She had a vision, one that kept her up late sketching plans and watching tutorials, sanding and painting until her hands were sore. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She just wanted to build something meaningful, something beautiful, even if no one else believed in it. But still, the whispers came. Asterisk, it's too ambitious, asterisk, asterisk, she doesn't know what she's doing, asterisk, asterisk, it'll never turn out the way she hopes, asterisk. The comments stung, but they didn't stop her. If anything, they made her more determined. Day by day, the project took shape. What looked like chaos slowly became something extraordinary. And when the final piece was in place, no one could believe their eyes. It wasn't just good, it was stunning, unexpected, original, and it didn't just turn heads. It won her an award at one of the most respected design expos in the city. But before all that happened, before the applause and recognition, there was a moment, a turning point, when everything nearly fell apart. And that's where our story really begins. A few weeks before it all came together, she hit a wall, both literally and mentally. Her tiny garage-turned-workshop was cluttered with half-finished pieces, tools scattered everywhere, and the sound of failure echoing louder than any power drill. The design wasn't coming together like she imagined. The centerpiece, a custom shelving unit with a floating illusion, kept collapsing every time she tested the structure. It wasn't just frustrating, it was heartbreaking. She started doubting herself. Maybe everyone else had been right. Maybe she had taken on too much. She wasn't a trained designer. No fancy degree, no sponsorships, no YouTube fame. Just a love for building and a habit of taking on challenges that most people wouldn't dare try. This project was supposed to be different, though. It was meant to show what creativity, patience, and vision could do, even without a big budget or team behind her. But the mistakes piled up. The paint kept cracking. Measurements were off. She spent hours fixing tiny flaws no one else would probably even notice. But she noticed, and it started getting to her. Meanwhile, people kept talking. Not to her face, of course, but she could feel the judgment. Social media posts with subtle digs. Messages left unread. The silence was louder than the noise. Yet something in her wouldn't quit. She had come too far. She wasn't ready to give up, not yet. But with only a week left before the Design Expo deadline, time was running out, and one major piece of the project was still missing. The missing piece wasn't just a part of the design, it was the heart of it. A curved wooden frame meant to hold the structure together and make the whole project stand out. She had tried cutting it 3 times already, and each time it splintered or warped. The wood she was using wasn't high-end. It came from a reclaimed furniture lot, full of imperfections. But that was part of the challenge, part of what made the DIY process feel real to her. No shortcuts, no fancy tools, just raw effort and vision. To make things worse, her work hours at her day job had picked up, and she was running on almost no sleep. The late-night sanding sessions, the paint fumes, the endless back and forth between trial and error, it was wearing her down. Her hands were blistered, her back ached, and now even her mind was starting to feel foggy. She didn't tell anyone how close she was to quitting. Not her friends, not her parents, not even the online DIY community she had been quietly part of for years. Meanwhile, at the Design Expo headquarters, the entries were starting to roll in, shiny, professional, corporate-backed installations with clean lines and perfect finishes. She saw the photos on the event page and felt a pit form in her stomach. Who was she kidding? This wasn't a level playing field. Her project, made from leftovers and late nights, looked nothing like theirs. But still, something in her kept going. Even when her power tools failed. Even when the neighbors whispered again. Something told her the story wasn't over yet. The final night before the expo felt like a storm closing in. The garage was a mess of sawdust, tangled cords, and half-empty coffee cups. She stood over the nearly finished project, staring at the spot where the curved frame was supposed to fit. Her last attempt sat cracked in the corner, a painful reminder of everything that had gone wrong. The clock was ticking. It was already past midnight, and the thought of showing up with an unfinished design twisted her stomach. She took a deep breath and pulled out her last piece of salvaged wood. It was rough, uneven, and not ideal, but it was all she had left. There was no room for error now. Every cut had to be perfect, every angle just right. Her hands shook as she measured, marked, and finally powered up the saw. The noise was loud, almost angry, but she blocked it out. This was it, no turning back. Meanwhile, outside her garage, rain had started falling. A storm rolled in heavy, wind rattling the windows. And inside, the power flickered, just once. Then again, she froze. If the power cut out completely, everything she worked for would be lost. No tools, no light, no time. The tension was unbearable. Her heart raced as she hurried to finish shaping the frame. Each moment felt like it could break everything. Then, right as she fit the frame into place, the power went out. Total darkness. Silence. No confirmation if it had worked. Just the sound of rain and the pounding of her own heartbeat. For a few seconds, she couldn't move. The darkness felt heavy, pressing against her as the storm howled outside. Her phone flashlight barely lit the space, and she couldn't tell if the final piece was secure. All she knew was that if it had cracked again, there was no backup, no second chance. She wanted to check, to feel the edges, but even the idea of seeing it broken again was too much. Then, out of nowhere, her phone buzzed. An email notification. It was from the expo team. Her stomach dropped as she read the subject line, *urgent, submission changes required. Her heart pounded faster as she opened it. The message said the guidelines had been updated last minute. For safety reasons, all structural pieces now had to pass an additional stability check before entry. That meant she'd have to disassemble and rebuild the curved section with added reinforcements, or risk getting disqualified entirely. She stared at the message in disbelief. After everything, they were changing the rules? And now, with no power, no time, and barely any materials left, they were asking for more. It felt impossible. Her toolbox, already half empty, wasn't going to cut it. She needed metal brackets, extra screws, things she didn't have on hand. The nearest hardware store had closed hours ago. Outside, the rain pounded harder. She looked around the dark garage, eyes landing on an old broken desk she'd planned to toss. Maybe, just maybe, it held the key to saving everything. In the pitch-black garage, with the storm raging outside, she fumbled for her phone to check the expo email again. Suddenly, a surge of power came back for just a split second, illuminating the project's latest build. The curved frame, her painstaking creation, held fast, its rough edges now reinforced by the improvised metal brackets fashioned from the old desks. In that moment, her heart pounded with a mix of relief and anxiety. The updated guidelines from the expo now seemed like a challenge she could overcome. Just as she began to breathe easier, the silence of the dark was broken by the sound of a knock at the door. Startled, she opened it to find her neighbor, who she had always known to be dismissive of her passion. Instead, he held a package, the result of his secret admiration for her unyielding creativity. Inside were high-quality metal brackets and extra screws he had salvaged from a friend's workshop. He whispered that he had once seen her work from afar and knew her potential was far beyond ordinary. In that unexpected act of kindness, the weight of doubt lifted, and her DIY project transformed into a beacon of collaboration and resilience. As she quickly integrated the new support, another email arrived, a retraction of the earlier rule change, confirming her design's eligibility for the expo. With the final piece in place and both external support and internal strength united, she realized that sometimes failure is just the beginning of a truly remarkable victory. The morning of the expo came quietly, with soft sunlight cutting through the storm's aftermath. She loaded her finished DIY project into a borrowed van, her hands still sore but her heart calm. It wasn't perfect, not by showroom standards, but it was hers. Every uneven edge, every improvised fix, every late-night adjustment told a story. When she arrived at the event, surrounded by polished, high-end designs, she stood tall anyway. People walked past at first, barely noticing her booth. But as the crowd settled in, more and more visitors stopped. They leaned closer, curious. They asked questions, not just about the design, but about the process, the materials, the story behind it. By midday, a quiet buzz had formed around her display. Judges took notes. Strangers took photos. What was once dismissed as just a hobby was now something real, something people connected with. And when her name was called for the design award, she didn't cry. She smiled, wide and proud, because she knew this wasn't just about winning. It was about proving that passion and persistence matter more than fancy tools or perfect plans. Later, as she packed up, her neighbor, now a quiet supporter, nodded from across the lot. Her phone lit up with messages from friends who'd seen the post online, finally realizing what she had built. The lesson was clear. Creativity doesn't need permission. DIY isn't just about doing it yourself. It's about believing in yourself, even when no one else does. And sometimes, that belief is all it takes to build something unforgettable.